What is up, cousins? Welcome back to another episode of the new era of Melanin Mysteries. And if you are new here, hey boo, hey. I'm Tiffany. I'm your favorite loudmouth cousin with the microphone. And like I said, I just want to officially welcome you to the new era of Melanin Mysteries. We are so happy that you stopped by, and hopefully you decide to stick around and become part of the family. And if you don't understand or feel like you weren't informed about what the new era is 2 months later because you don't pay attention, I don't even know what to tell you. But anyway, let me go ahead and throw this disclaimer out there real quick because, baby, let me tell you something. We do not do boring over here. This is not NPR. This is not Dateline. I am not about to sit up here and tell y'all a story sounding like I'm reading a bedtime story off the teleprompter. I am animated. I'm a cuss. I'm a cut up a little bit, and I'm going to tell y'all these stories like I am talking to my cousins at the cookout with a plate in one hand and some tea in the other. Now, if that ain't your vibe, it's okay. I appreciate this dream, my love, but this may not be your table, and I promise you, it is no hard feelings at all. Now, to my cousins that came back for another week of a crazy ass story. Y'all know I love y'all down bad. Seriously. I really just want to thank y'all for showing up and constantly supporting me, sharing the podcast, commenting, leaving reviews, and interacting with the content. Y'all really do keep me going, and I appreciate y'all more than y'all will ever know. So I hope everybody had a good weekend. Happy Mother's Day, because I am recording on Sunday because, yes, again, I'm late. I told y'all this grad season. I'm struggling. Okay, right. Now, I hope everybody got some rest. I hope y'all stayed out of jail, out of mess, and minded at least some of y'all business. So let's go ahead and we're going to knock out these announcements real quick before we jump into this week's case. So first things first, I am talking to my Apple and my Spotify subscribers. Listen, the Cousin Confessions is going live on May 30th at 8 p.m. I finally got a time now, and that's Eastern Standard Time. Now listen, because these platforms is stingy as hell with giving creators access to subscriber emails. So if you need the link, or you're going to need the link to join me live, hit me up. But let me tell y'all something. I'm going to need some proof that you actually subscribe before I send it over. So don't come over here trying to sneak into the family reunion with a fake wristband. Now, you can reach me through the website, melaninmysteries.com, any of the social media pages, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Melanin Mysteries, or you can shoot me an email if that's more your speed, podcast@melaninmysteries.com. Next up, if you ain't paid attention, I have brought Love, Lies, and Alibis back. I'm trying to do a weekly little Friday segment on social media, but for the actual feed, well, for the subscribers, I am working on a 3-part series, and baby, I need one more, just one more. I specifically need a married man. I don't know where I'm gonna find one at, but baby, I need one. And if you out there, holler at me, because that's exactly what I need right now. That's the last piece of the puzzle. I just need one man, and we are going to have a little chit chat about relationships, dating, marriage, love, red flags, delusions, just all things relationships, right? And I cannot do without my married man. So, sir, come find me. I need you. So, that's it. Hit me up. And also, Essence Fest is coming up, and your girl will be outside in New Orleans, and I will be celebrating 2 whole years of Melanin Mysteries. But for real, it is so crazy because time really does fly when you're having fun and solving crimes with your cousins on the internet. And lastly, before we jump into this case, because that's what y'all came here for, if you could please leave your girl a 5-star review wherever you are listening, I would appreciate it oh so much. Specifically on Apple Podcasts, because I'm going to be honest, like, I don't know what y'all got going on over there. I am side-eyeing y'all over there real hard. My Spotify cousins have been holding me down, but y'all Apple ones, y'all got thumbs. Please don't play with me. All right, now let's go ahead and get into this week's mess. So this week's vibe check is Please Don't Go by Tank. And when this episode is over, I need y'all to come back and tell me if this song passed the vibe check, because baby, the desperation, the obsession, and the emotional panic, oh, it fits. And then again, Apple listeners, this is y'all cue to leave a comment and a review while you're at it, okay? Now, This week, we are diving into the case of Tyrone Cade and Mischell Fuller. And I'm going to be honest with y'all right now. I don't trust niggas named Tyrone. I just do not. And I have a very valid reason. But even more so after y'all hear this case, y'all ain't going to trust a nigga named Tyrone either. Matter of fact, Erykah Badu told us about Tyrone. Right. So Tyrone is officially being added to the running list of names that we don't trust around here. So I do need to give y'all a trigger warning because this case does involve sexual assault. Okay. Now, this week we have us a jealous man. I know, shocking, right? A man who did not know when to let the fuck go, who confused obsession with love, and because of it, a woman and her daughter both lost their lives. And trust me, we are absolutely going to give this sorry ass nigga the dragging that he deserves. So I'm going to need y'all to buckle up, cousins. I need you to secure your bonnets, grab your wine, your Red Bull, your coffee, whatever gets you through the workday or through this traffic. If you are at your desk, act like you typing an email while you listening. So let's go ahead and get into this. Because, cousins, I got to tell y'all what had happened. I just wanted to get away from this man. I don't even know how I let it get this far. Because for real, he wasn't even my type. Well, let me stop lying because clearly I got a thing for some felons. But once I was done, okay? But this one, he just would not leave. I mean, at the point, he was getting obsessed, desperate. And to be for real, this man gave me the ick. I thought if I kept giving him the cold shoulder, he'd eventually get tired and move around. He just kept pushing, he kept lingering, forcing himself where he was not wanted. I made it clear. But the sad part is, it wasn't just my life that got destroyed behind all this. My baby girl, she lost her life too. March 27th, 2011, we are heading down to Dallas, Texas. Tyrone Cade, he walks his ass into a police station. He picks up a payphone inside the lobby of the police station and calls 911. And this man confesses to a double homicide. Let me back this up for just a minute because I know I'm not the only one confused already. Because is it giving slow? Because if you're already inside the police station, why are we calling 911? Maybe the front desk is right there. Then people probably looking at him through the glass like, sir, you know we can see you, right? Whole time he calling like it's an anonymous tip on Crime Stoppers. I have no understanding. But anyway, a few minutes later, Tyrone, he gets arrested. They read him his Miranda rights. And honestly, the detectives was like, you know what, not today, Satan. Because even though this fool already confessed on a recorded 911 call, they still wanted to make sure that every single thing was airtight. They were not about to let some courtroom nonsense have this man moonwalking home on a technicality. Now, Tyrone then sits down and gives a full video recorded statement about what had happened. And baby, this is where this story takes a very ugly turn. So let me go ahead and throw this trigger warning out now because what comes next is graphic, it's disturbing, and it does involve the sexual assault that we talked about before. So all of this started in the early morning hours of March 26, 2011. Now, according to Tyrone, he left the house to go to a strip club with his cousin. But before he left, he hid a recording device near Mischell's side of the bed. Now, see right there? That's a red flag. Because why are we planning surveillance equipment like you're auditioning for First 48 Toxic Boyfriend Edition? Sir, if you got to go FBI agent in your relationship, it's over already. Just let it be. But anyway, after leaving the strip club, apparently, this man said he couldn't find no prostitutes. Yeah, you heard me right. He was on the prowl for some prostitutes and couldn't find them. Now, I don't know. Anyway, so like I said, those were his words. Those are not mine. His. So around 2 a.m., he heads back home and he decides that this would be the perfect time to sit there and listen to over 2 hours worth of recordings, which honestly, that already sounds unhinged. And I'm sure at this point he had been drinking. So you're not in the best state of mind to be listening to 2 hours. Anyway, while listening, he hears Mischell on the phone with her ex-husband through Skype. Is Skype still around? I don't know. And according to Tyrone, like I said, about 2 hours into this call, he said the conversation turned sexual. So he like, the man stewing or whatever. He pissed. So he go ahead and he like, I'm gonna go ahead and lay it down. It's, whoever knows what time of the morning it is, but he just decided he gonna go lay it down. But he claims that he was woken up because he was tossing and turning so much that Mischell rolled over irritated and told him to go back to sleep. And honestly, I can't say I blame her. It's the middle of the night. She probably got to get up for work in a couple hours, and you over there moving around like a damn rotisserie chicken while I'm trying to sleep. I would be irritated too. But this right here is where things take a horrific turn. This man, instead of just rolling his stupid ass over and going back to sleep, he pulls out a butcher knife from underneath the mattress and threatens her with it. Sir, what the fuck? It is too goddamn early. I can't process things before I have coffee. Like, her brain is probably still foggy. And here you come pulling out a freaking knife? So she's panicking, she's screaming, but instead of walking away and leaving, crying, throwing up, arguing, anything that's remotely sane, this man just goes off and starts stabbing her repeatedly. And Mischell's daughter, Desaree Hoskins, she was home at the time. She wakes up hearing her mom screaming, and she runs into the room trying to make sure her mom is okay. And let me tell you how evil this fucker is. This man stops attacking Mischell long enough to grab Desaree and stab her multiple times. Now, Desaree falls, and instead of helping her or realizing what he has done at this point, he runs back over to Mischell and he starts stabbing her again. He then notices that Desaree is trying to get away. So this sick bastard gets off of Mischell again. He goes back to Desaree and starts stabbing her again. The depravity and the rage is just so freaking evil. And eventually, when he notices that Desaree is no longer screaming, he stops attacking her and goes back to Mischell, who is still alive and conscious at this point. And what he does next is just beyond freaking disturbing. Now, according to his confession, Tyrone pulls Mischell's pants down and sexually assaulted her vaginally and anally while this poor lady was dying. I can't even imagine the pain that she's in because he has stabbed her so many times. And then he rapes her. And then he said he ejaculated in her and on her because, quote, she made him feel like a sex offender. Yeah, exactly. And let me just say this clearly because nobody made you do a damn thing. This was about control, humiliation, and rage because you couldn't handle rejection. That woman wanted out of the relationship most likely, and instead of accepting it, you chose absolute brutality. Now, Tyrone told investigators that he believed that Mischell lived for about 30 to 40 minutes after he first stabbed her, and that he sexually assaulted her for at least 20 to 30 of those minutes. And while he was assaulting Mischell, he said he could still hear Desaree speaking in the background. And then he said, well, he thought that Desaree may have actually survived longer than her mother. Yeah. I have no words besides that. It's just absolutely horrifying. But before we go any further, because we need a break from all that darkness for just a minute, because that was really heavy. And I think it's important that we talk about who Mischell and Desaree actually were outside of what this fucker did to them, because they were real people with lives, families, goals, and people who loved them. And they are more than just the horrific ending that this man, if you want to call him that, caused. So Mischell Rubina Fuller was actually born June 13th, 1973 in Belize. Oh, the food's looking at Belize. And I honestly could not find a lot of information about her early life. But what I found was I believe she moved to the United States with her mom, Elena Belcher, when she was still a child. And I didn't see a father mentioned anywhere, but I did find a sister named Marva. Now, people describe Mischell as sweet, caring, and somebody who lit up a room with her smile. And honestly, I believe it because even in her pictures, like she just had this warm energy about her, like the kind of person who made you feel comfortable. She worked for the Red Cross for years as a CPR and first aid instructor, which already tells me she was probably one of those dependable people everybody called when something went wrong. The calm one, the nurturing one, the one that makes sure everybody else was okay. Now, Mischell had previously been married to a man named Carlton Hoskins. They had two kids, Michael and Desaree. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the breakdown of their marriage happened or why, but at some point, Carlton ends up going to prison. And from there, Michelle's outside. She's handling her business like a single mama and making things happen for her kids. And like I said, I don't think I said it, but happy Mother's Day to all the moms because being a single mother is not for the weak. Shoot, being a mama in general is not for the weak. And we do it every day with a smile on our faces like superwoman powers. So anyway, we're going to move on to Desaree. Her name was Desaree Elena Rubina Hoskins. I love that she took her mom's name and her middle name and gave them to her daughter. And she was born October 21st, 1992. This baby was 18. She was still in high school. The poor baby had dreams of joining the Navy after she graduated. And everybody had described her as beautiful, athletic, smart, and oh my gosh, she was so pretty. And like I said, she looked just full of life by looking at her pictures, young, hopeful, and just, still trying to figure out who she wanted to become in this world. And that's what makes this case hurt so bad because this wasn't just about one life being stolen. It was a mom and a daughter. The woman who spent her life helping people and a young woman who hadn't even get the chance to fully start hers yet. Now, before we get into the crime scene and what police found when they got to that house, we got to back things up for just a minute and break down how these people even came to be together in the first place. Because this situation was giving toxic long before it turned deadly. Now, Tyrone and Mischell had been living together for several years before this all went down. And somehow, Tyrone also had custody of his 11-year-old daughter, Tyra. And let me tell y'all right now, when I tell you, the more I tell y'all about Tyrone, y'all gonna be asking the same exact question I had. Who in the fuck gave this nigga custody of anybody's goddamn kids? But we'll circle back to that. Now, we mentioned earlier that Michelle's ex-husband, Carlton Hoskins, he had been in prison. But, he's just because he's in prison doesn't mean he can't do the best he can as being an active father. So he stays in contact with Michael Desaree, and Tyrone's jealous ass could not stand it. Like anytime that man called, it was an argument. Anytime that man's name was brought up, it's an argument. Like he was one of them insecure ass niggas who thought every man wanted his woman. In his mind, Carlton calling to check on his kids somehow meant he was trying to get Mischell back. Now, Carlton knew she had a man. He wasn't tripping on that. He wasn't stunned that. He just trying to be a daddy like the best way he can from jail, okay? Like I said, it caused constant problems because, like I said, Tyrone didn't even want Carlton calling the damn house. Like, how do we get around this? That man can't talk to his kids? So Carlton was actually released from prison in 2009, and their son Michael decided he wanted to go live with his father in Denton, Texas. Honestly, I don't even blame him because imagine living in a house with an angry and controlling man who always is looking for drama and acting like everybody is plotting to steal his girl. The energy alone would have had me packing a bag. And they said that like Mischell had asked this man to leave several times and he would not leave. So she made it clear that she just wanted to be done at some point, but this man would not freaking leave. And let me just go ahead and properly introduce y'all to this raggedy piece of walking piss bag, Tyrone Cade. He was born somewhere around 1973. I couldn't find much on this mother. I don't even know her name, but his father was Jerry Cade Ford, and his upbringing was a straight up hot mess. And it maybe possibly we'll see. I don't believe it, but maybe contributed to a lot of the foolery we're talking about today. Now, Tyrone did have one brother named Gregory, but apparently their father had 9 kids in total. But Gregory, and I guess him and Greg had the same mama and daddy. But Greg ended up going to live with their grandparents when he was around 6 or 7. So the brothers like didn't grow up together at all. And for some reason, like they weren't even close. Like you would think because he went with his grandmother, they would no, they didn't even grow up together. Like they weren't close, none of that. And we'll touch on that a bit later. Now, according to Tyrone's father, Jerry, he said he once caught Tyrone's mother molesting Tyrone when he was only 2 years old. Now, Jerry claimed that after discovering this, he hit the mama in the head with a hammer in front of Tyrone. Yeah. hmm So, this is the type of violent, chaotic, toxic environment this man was raised in. But yes, it gets worse in case you're wondering. So, Jerry Cade Ford had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So he reportedly suffered from auditory and visual hallucinations. The man was in and out of jail. So we have to account for instability, violence, trauma, criminal behavior were basically surrounding this child for Tyrone from his childhood. Now during high school, it seemed like he was kind of normaling out. If I don't even know if it's a word, normaling, he seemed to be, trying to keep a sense of normalcy. And in high school, he played football, and it was like, okay, maybe, just maybe, he may be yoga. No. Mm-mm. In 1987, he caught his first burglary case. Then in 1993, he caught another charge for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon after shooting a man named Edward Watts with a shotgun. Yeah. And then again in 1999, Tyrone was charged with sexually assaulting a woman named Charity Trice. So I'm going to make this very clear. Mischell was not his very first victim. This man had a pattern of violence against women, and he's just straight up freaking violent. And he did serve time for that case, which means, yes, Tyrone Cade was a registered sex offender. Now, not to victim shame, or maybe because this is the early-ish 2000s, it wasn't widely available, but I wonder if she knew he was a sex offender. I wonder if she knew, but I think she had to have known because he said that she treated him like she didn't look at him like she treated him like a sex offender. So I'm wondering how deep the situation was because she had to have known. And in my mind, if you're a registered sex offender, you're not coming anywhere around me, let alone my children. But I don't know the backstory, so that's just that. We just gonna leave it at that. Now, when police did arrive at the home on the 1400 block of Ron Drive, the scene inside, they said, was absolutely freaking horrific. Like, I'm talking about nightmare fuel. This is the kind of scene that probably sticks with investigators for the rest of their lives. Now, Michelle's body was found in the master bedroom. She was face down and naked from the waist down. And the level of degradation at this scene was just beyond sick. They said her buttocks and vaginal area had been propped up on several pillows, and a bottle of lube was found sitting next to her body. You sick ass fuck. And in the bathroom, investigators found a bloody knife along with a notebook containing Tyrone's handwritten notes. And when I tell y'all, reading these notes is like stepping directly into a mind of a jealous, spiraling, unhinged man who blamed everybody except himself for the evil that he chose to do. Now, in the hallway right outside the bedroom was Desaree. 18-year-old baby was laid out in the hallway after trying to save her mama. And I don't know, but that forever will make my stomach turn because she should never even been in this situation. And then can you imagine that baby is lying there, she's helpless, she can't get to her mother, and this sick walking bag of piss is just sexually assaulting her mama, and she can't do nothing about it. She can't help herself or her mama. Like, I don't even know how. I don't even know. Now, in Tyrone's handwritten notes, he claimed that Mischell had, quote, kicked him to the curb when she started trying to repair her relationship between Carlton and the kids, which is insane because imagine murdering somebody because they wanted peace and stability for their kids. Like, sir, you're literally mad because a mother wanted her kids to have their father back in their lives? Yeah. And the notes just got more and more delusional as it went on. So Tyrone wrote, quote, Mischell used to treat me so good, not like a sex offender. I'm truly sorry she drove me crazy trying to fix things with her kids and the father. I feel so bad for so many people, especially who knew me. All I can say is she had a bad side. It wasn't always sunshine. Thank you, Carlton Hoskins, for this one. End quote. Now, let's unpack this nonsense for a second. Because, first of all, nobody drove you to brutally murder and sexually assault a woman and her daughter. Second of all, do y'all notice how this raggedy piece of walking vomit still found a way to make himself the victim? This man literally butchered two people, and somehow his biggest concern was that Mischell didn't make him feel comfortable enough as a registered sex offender anymore. And then to end the note with thank you, Carlton Hoskins, for this one. This was Carlton's fault. Sir, you hit a recording device. You slept with butcher knives under the mattress. You stabbed an 18-year-old girl trying to protect her mother. The level of blame shifting is honestly like just terrifying. And the entire scene screamed rage, control, humiliation, and punishment. This wasn't somebody who snapped for 5 seconds. This was prolonged, hateful, and deliberate violence. So the medical examiner later confirmed just how brutal this attack was. When Mischell died from 28 stab wounds. 28. She had defensive wounds on her hands, her wrists, meaning she fought for her life. She was trying to protect herself at all costs while this man was savagely attacking her. And several of her injuries were to her face, neck, her chest, and many of the wounds they said were 4 to 5 inches deep. Can you think about, like, I'm not trying to be funny, like, if you, like, I know my arm is freaking barely 4 to 5 inches. Like, that means, like, you damn near sliced, depending on how, big her arm was, you could have sliced directly through her arm. Like, come on now. And then there's Desaree. The medical, and because I'm saying, I'm not trying to be funny, but she wasn't a big woman at all. So he could have went in one side and came out the other. That's overkill. And then there's Desaree. The medical examiner determined that Desaree died from 39 stab wounds. And many of her wounds were also 4 to 5 inches deep. And investigators noted that a tremendous amount of force had been used during the attack on her, so much force that some of the stab wounds actually penetrated her bones. That is just insane. And I said, honestly, hearing that part really kind of made me sick to my stomach because it really drives home how terrified and defenseless she must have been in those final moments. Now, Desaree, she wasn't out in the streets or involved in no drama. This girl was at home where she's supposed to feel safe. She heard her mama screaming and she ran towards danger trying to help her. And she lost her life in one of the most horrific ways imaginable. And we don't know that even if maybe she didn't come, he may have still come in her room and, stabbed. Like, we just don't know, but it's just crazy. This wasn't rage for 2 seconds. This was, like I said, it was overkill. It was rage, hatred, and straight up pure control. Now, of course, they had this man without bail because why in the entire hell would they release this sorry bottleneck lunatic back out into the streets after what he just did? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Tyrone sat right where he belonged until it was time for trial. And to be for real with y'all, I'm still baffled as to why we even needed a trial in the first place. This man literally walked into a police station, confessed on a recorded 911 call, gave a video statement, wrote notes, and then he doubled down on everything he said and did. So why are we wasting taxpayers' money on this waste of a breath of an ass man? Why? And when I tell y'all this man turned this whole trial into a goddamn circus, I mean, it was monkeys, elephants, clowns. It was the whole damn tent. And the trial officially starts up August of 2012. And do y'all know this philandering walking bag of toilet water got up there and pled not guilty by reason of insanity? Being depraved is not a mental disorder. Being evil is not insanity. Being jealous, controlling, sexually violent, and unable to handle rejection does not suddenly mean you didn't know right from wrong. Especially when you confessed, wrote notes, you hid recording devices, and then you try blaming everybody else afterward. That sounds very aware to me. I'm just saying, very aware. Now, at this point, Tyrone is facing the death penalty on 2 capital murder charges. And his defense team consisted of a Lalan, I don't know, Peel, a Richard Franklin, and a John Tatum. And y'all ain't gonna believe this nonsense they tried to feed this jury. So first off, these raggedy ass folks stood up in court and argued that Tyrone had just simply snapped. According to them, he was unemployed. He was upset because Mischell was cheating. He was dealing with back pain. Back pain. Yes, I said it. Back pain. Baby, what? Since when does lower discomfort turn people into homicidal maniacs? Baby, I be sitting over this desk, my blinging and stuff. I had to get a whole new chair. I fixed that problem. I got me a whole new chair because my back was on fire, but they didn't make me out want to go out and kill nobody. Yeah. Yeah. But they didn't stop there. They also argued that the physical and sexual abuse Tyrone endured as a child contributed to him snapping that night. Mind you, at this point, he's 38 years old. And I'm not saying that him being sexually assaulted or violence against him as a child was right, but I am saying that you've had ample time to go to therapy if you're that mad. You've had ample time to unpack at that. If it happened to you as a child, you're a full-blown adult now. We have to take accountability. Now, like I said, 2 things can exist at once because he absolutely experienced trauma growing up. What allegedly happened to him as a child was horrific and tragic, but a traumatic upbringing does not excuse becoming a violent predator because plenty of people do survive sexual abuse or physical, mental, verbal abuse without brutally murdering and sexually assaulting women. And that is the part that irritated the fuck out of me about his defense because instead of just acknowledging that this man had a long documented pattern of violence, control issues, and sexual aggressions, they tried to package this like he was some brokenhearted man who had one bad night. No, he didn't end up on one bad night. He ended up on Melanin Mysteries. He ain't shit. And I don't understand how these defense attorneys can sit up there and defend these people. Now, it's one like the sexual abuse, if you even were up there trying to argue the murder, I might have some reasonable doubt. But how they found this woman propped up with a bottle of lube, sorry, sir. Your money ain't no good here. I don't even want it. I do not want it. Find somebody else because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Like I said, this wasn't a snap. It was escalation and entitlement. This was a registered sex offender with a history of violence against women who became enraged because he was losing control. That's all this was. Very cut and dry. I see it. I see it. Do y'all? I see it. And like I told y'all, I said this trial was a goddamn circus. And I meant that. Because remember I told y'all about Tyrone's brother? Because remember I told y'all about Tyrone's brother, Gregory? Yeah. So the defense goes ahead and they call him as a witness. Y'all gonna be y'all by the time I tell you about these witnesses, y'all just gonna be sitting there like, what? So just buckle up and prepare yourselves because this is some bullshit. Okay. So first they call up Mr. Greg, and depravity must run in that whole goddamn family because what was in this testimony? So Greg gets up on the stand and he like, let me tell y'all something about my brother. My brother, he suffered from severe mental defects and he ain't understand what he was doing was wrong when he killed Mischell and Desaree. Excuse the fuck out of me. Sir, your brother hid recording devices. Then he thought he was a detective and listened to 2 hours of recording, slept with a butcher knife under the mattress, confessed afterward, wrote detailed notes, blaming everybody else. Then he walked his dusty ass into a police station to confess. But somehow we're supposed to believe that he didn't know right from wrong. Please be fucking for real. Now, Greg said he was about 4 years older than Tyrone. And like we talked about earlier, Greg got sent to live with their grandmother when he was like 6 or 7. So while Tyrone stayed behind growing up in chaos, abuse, violence, dysfunction, Greg was, somewhere he was living safer, more stable. So they didn't grow up together and they lived very different lives. So according to Greg, they didn't reconnect until they were adults when their mother became terminally ill. And spoiler alert, she died. And that's what brought them back together. Do I feel... Okay, slightly off topic for a moment because I just been like this has been bugging me for the last couple of days. Why does TMZ report the people when people died like that? They don't never say it like, oh, she passed away peacefully in her sleep. They'd be like, such and such dead at 28. I'd be like, dang, that's kind of harsh. But okay, sorry, that's just been on my mind the last couple of days. I just be like, dang, that was just dead. That's all y'all got. But anyway. The mama died. That's what brought them back together. Greg testified that Tyrone seemed emotionally unstable after he had served prison time for the aggravated sexual assault. And he also claimed that Tyrone's mental state at the time of the murders was, quote, unstable, primarily because of back pain that he self-treated with pain patches. Yeah, I was trying to process that up just one more again because as many times I read it, it still don't register as to me why your mental state was unstable because you got back pain. I know a good pain management doctor I can send you to. He might get you hooked on shit. He probably wasn't that great of a doctor. Anyway, now I don't know about y'all, but I'm here struggling trying to see the correlation between back pain patches and brutally murdering and sexually assaulting two people. Like, because what are we even talking about right now? So the defense was throwing anything at the wall, hoping that something would stick, just something. But then Greg somehow manages to make himself look even worse and his brother. This man admits on the stand he ain't really like Mischell no way. And then he was just like, matter of fact, I was the one who told Tyrone he should place a recording device near her bed because these hoes ain't loyal. Now hold on, sir. Because if you supposedly knew your brother is mentally unstable and emotionally fragile, why would you think it would be a good idea to be like, hey, bro, you should go ahead and secretly record your girlfriend? That don't sound like concern. That sounds like y'all both toxic as hell. That's what that sounds like to me. But then this dumbass completely folds during cross-examination because at one point, this man literally was sat there and said, well, shit, if a woman cheated on me, I'd probably have done the same thing. Sir, you are on the stand in a murder trial. At that point, somebody need to just go ahead and slide a chair up under him and read him his rights too, because what do you mean you would have done the same thing? Done what exactly? Murder a mother and daughter? So the prosecution probably was over there looking like, thank you for your honesty now. Please never speak again. All right, thank you. Because Gregory was up there accidentally helping the prosecution more than the defense. But yeah, the circus continues because apparently one defense witness full of nonsense was just not enough for them. Nope. They brought in not one, not two, but three different psychologists. And I'm going to say, I'm already irritated before we even get into this bullshit. So first up to the stand was a Dr. Michael Gottlieb. I don't know. Now, mind you, this man did not, heavy on the did not actually meet Tyrone. He did not interview Tyrone. He did not evaluate Tyrone face to face. He didn't even pick up a phone and call this man. He reviewed records. That's it. Which already had me side-eyeing the defense like, baby, are y'all running out of people willing to stand beside this man? Is that how this is going down? So Dr. Gottlieb testified that according to Tyrone's family, not an actual doctor, mind you, Tyrone has supposedly been diagnosed with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder. Let me break that down to y'all real quick because I had to go look at the paper sideways. So I know what schizophrenia is, but in case you don't, schizophrenia is a serious mental disorder where people can experience hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, and trouble separating reality from what's really happening. I have a brother that's schizophrenic. And then schizoaffective disorder, which I had never heard of, is similar, but it also includes major mood disorder symptoms like severe depression or mania mixed in with psychotic symptoms. Okay. So we got those out the way. Basically, the defense was trying real hard to paint this picture that Tyrone's brain was severely impaired. Now, Dr. Gottlieb, he gets up there and he then tells the jury that because Tyrone's father had bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, Tyrone supposedly had a 9 to 18% risk, less than 20, of developing characteristics associated with schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder himself. Now listen carefully because this is important. He said risk, not diagnosis. No proof, no confirmation, just a possibility. But then he starts talking about how the defense attorneys, and you heard me right, the defense attorneys told him about the allegations. So now we got some he said, she said, and when you start playing telephone, you know things don't ever come out to the end right, just right. So yeah, that's how this goes. Tyrone's mother sexually abused him as a child. And according to Dr. Gottlieb, some children who experience sexual abuse may later develop psychological symptoms, distorted perceptions, and other mental health struggles. Now, see, this is where the testimony starts sounding like somebody trying to write a paper and hit a word count requirement, because immediately afterward, he basically had to admit that these symptoms are non-specific, meaning that those same symptoms could come from a bunch of different things totally unrelated to childhood abuse. And there was no direct causal link providing that the alleged abuse automatically caused Tyrone to become violent later in life. So basically, sir, you guys got up here and waste everybody goddamn time. That's exactly what happened. You just what are you here for? Is what I would like to know. And then when the cross examination came through like a folding chair at a wrestling match, because Dr. Gottlieb admitted that he had zero independent proof that the alleged childhood sexual abuse even happened. Nothing. He had no medical records, no outside confirmation, nothing beyond what Tyrone's family had said. And because he had never actually examined Tyrone himself, he also admitted he couldn't even say whether Tyrone showed any actual psychological symptoms connected to his childhood abuse. But then, to make matters even worse for the defense, Dr. Gottlieb acknowledged that people who were abused as children and later developed psychological symptoms are still usually able to follow societal norms and understand right from wrong. And if that didn't drop kick the half the defense argument down the stairs, I don't know what did. And then after all this long-winded, boring testimony, this man says that he was not offering an opinion on whether Tyrone was legally insane at the time of murder. I'm so confused. Isn't that what you came up here for? That was your whole purpose. It said, wasn't it? Okay. So let me get this straight, sir, because you didn't meet him. You didn't evaluate him. You can't confirm the abuse happened. You can't confirm he had symptoms from the abuse. You admitted that abused people still usually know right from wrong. And you're not even saying that he was insane when he murdered these women. Why are you here, beloved? What exactly was the purpose of this field trip to the witness stand? I need to know. After Mr. Doctor Gotta Be Dumber Than a Pot of Grits finished up his testimony, the defense decided they were going to depose Tyrone's daddy, Mr. Jerry Ford. And counsel read portions of Jerry's deposition testimony into the record. Now, in this deposition, Jerry claimed that when Tyrone was just 2 years old, this is when he said he had walked in and discovered Tyrone's mother performing fellatio on him. Jerry said that's when he hit her in the head with the hammer, while Tyrone watched the whole thing. Now, listen, that is horrifying if it's true. And it paints an extremely traumatic picture of the environment that Tyrone grew up in. But at the same time, y'all could tell the defense was trying really hard to build this he was a broken beyond repair narrative for the jury. So next up comes Dr. Daniel Altman for the defense. And at this point, I'm not even sure where they found these so-called doctors at, because, baby, I think they accidentally hired witnesses for the prosecution. Like, did y'all interview these people before y'all called them to the stand? Because once again, on cross-exam, it beat this defense argument upside the head, okay? So Dr. Altman admitted that he also did not examine Tyrone. He did not diagnose Tyrone with schizophrenia. He ain't diagnosed with any mental disorder. So again, I'm just sitting here like, okay, so what exactly, again, was the reason for this field trip to the courthouse? Because y'all keep bringing in these, quote, experts who immediately get up there and say, well, actually, I can't confirm. Well, what can y'all confirm? Then Dr. Altman explained that schizophrenia in men usually develops by a person's mid-20s, meaning symptoms usually appear much earlier than life. But Tyrone was 38 at the time of the murder, so it's not holding up too well. So Dr. Altman did testify that it would have been very unlikely for him to suddenly develop schizophrenia at that age. Mic drop. Y'all dumb. Oh, I'm sorry. So, see, now the prosecution probably sitting there trying not to grin too hard because your own witness just poked holes all through y'all insanity defense. And if you thought we were done, we're not with the foolishness. Dr. Altman also testified, he just digging this hole deeper and dang on deeper. He also testified that the vast majority of people living with mental illnesses, including schizophrenia, still understand the difference between right and wrong. I have no words. And that's really important legally, because insanity defenses are not just about having a mental illness. The issue is whether somebody was so mentally impaired that they literally could not understand what they were doing was wrong at the time of the crime. And I can talk about this because, like I said, I have a brother that has paranoid schizophrenia, and he's always in and out of jail. And most times they end up sending him to a mental institution because he is that mentally impaired, that he cannot understand that what he did at the time was wrong. Like, for instance, he's also a drug addict, so he be robbing folks, and he steals and stuff. But even when he's on his medication, like, and he's semi-lucid, like, I mean, medicated up, he'll be semi-lucid, and you'll be talking to him, and then he'll go off into something like, "Oh, remember that time I gave you $100,000 search? No, I promise you ain't give me a, baby, I would have remembered it." He like will swear up and down, or he'll be like, "Oh, do you see those butterflies flying through the sky?" Like, so you can, it's not hard for you to really tell when somebody, like, it's not hard for experts and doctors to tell, but as you can see, this is not where we're at with Tyrone. Now, like I said, at this point, the prosecutors probably didn't even need cross-examination. They could have just sat back down. They probably could have drank some water and let these witnesses self-destruct on their own. And now last, but certainly not goddamn least, because at this point, the trial had to be for entertainment purposes only. Because I know by the time this third, quote, expert got on the stand, the jury was probably just mentally exhausted. Like, baby, let's go ahead and wrap this up, order lunch, and let's deliberate already. But no, we're not done, because here comes Dr. Gilda Kessner. She's the only woman out the bunch. And this chick came with a little haughty attitude, immediately acknowledging that she worked exclusively for the defense in capital murder cases. Okay, KK girl, all right. So basically, your entire job is getting on the stand trying to explain why murderers maybe kind of sort of weren't responsible for what they did. Gotcha. Now, Dr. Kessner starts talking about this thing called, quote, abandonment rage. And I'm going to clear this up right now for y'all, because the defense was trying to make this sound real official and clinical. But abandonment rage is not an actual diagnosis that's listed in the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistic Manual, which is also known as the DSM. I sounded real smart there, didn't I? And the DSM is basically the handbook mental health professionals use to officially classify recognized mental disorders. So basically, in other words, y'all over here just making up shit for shits and giggles. Yeah. Now, according to Dr. Kessner, a person experiencing abandonment rage enters a stage of autonomic arousal. Now, let me translate that out of doctor language, because they love making things sound like a Harry Potter spell. Basically, she was saying that the person's body goes into extreme emotional and physiological overdrive, like panic, stress, rage, adrenaline, all flooding the system at one time. So she claimed that when somebody enters this stage, it can limit their cognitive processes, meaning that their ability to think rationally or control their behavior becomes impaired. Then she said somebody dealing with stressors like depression, chronic pain, the man was talking about his back hurt, childhood trauma, and the fear of losing an intimate partner could supposedly be more likely to enter this, quote, abandonment rage state. And according to her, during that moment of violence, the person may not understand what they're doing is wrong. And then she tells the jury that there is a high probability that Tyrone suffered from abandonment rage. Ma'am, it's not even a real diagnosis. And not only does it sound like the emotional support cousin of crime of passion, but once again, this woman never personally examined Tyrone. She did not interview this man. She did not evaluate this man. She did not sit across this man and stare into his brown, crusty eyes. She didn't do none of that. And I'm sorry, but somebody please explain to me how these so-called experts can get up there on a witness stand speaking with this much certainty about a man they ain't never even laid eyes on besides a picture. At this point, the defense witnesses were basically giving a quote, "I read about him one time and the vibes were off." That's what it's giving. And honestly, the more these experts, and I use that word extremely loosely, And that's only because they use the word I'm not, because they sound incompetent as hell to me. But the worse the defense started looking, because instead of proving that Tyrone didn't know right from wrong, they kept accidentally proving the opposite side. Because let's be for real. A man that's recording his girlfriend, listening to hours of calls and hiding a knife, and he's writing these blame-filled notes, and he's sexually assaulting somebody, and then he walks to a police station to confess. To me, that sounds calculated, possessive. It's not giving detached from reality to me. It sounds like you were very cognitive of what you were doing, sir. Now we're going to go ahead and head over to the prosecution because, baby, now they actually called somebody who sounded like they graduated from school and actually knew what the hell they was talking about. So the prosecution called Tim Proctor. This man had a PhD. I don't know what the mother doctors had behind their name because I don't know. They might have got their stuff from ChatGPT. I don't even know. But he was a forensic psychologist. And unlike the defense parade of, well, maybe, possibly, perhaps experts, Dr. Proctor actually worked for both the state and the defense in different cases before. So he wasn't just somebody who exclusively got paid to hop on the stand and freestyle excuses for murderers. And here's the part that immediately made me sit up a little bit straighter in my chair, because this man actually personally evaluated Tyrone. Imagine that. We got somebody that's doing their damn job. Such a revolutionary concept, ain't it? Now, Dr. Proctor sat with Tyrone for 5 hours, and he conducted a comprehensive review of basically every single relevant record connected to this case. Somebody, my God, has done their job, done their homework. And when I say comprehensive, baby, I mean comprehensive. This man went through the police reports. He went through the 911 confession call. He went through Tyrone's statements to the investigators. He went through the psychological evaluation that was done by jail mental health staffs immediately after his arrest. He went through records of Tyrone's mental health treatment while he was awaiting trial. He went through police, community, and prison records. He looked at his prior arrests and convictions. He looked at his school records, his unemployment records. And I'm sorry, I said unemployment. I meant employment, but shit, he was unemployed. Same goddamn difference. And he went through the mental health records of Tyrone's father, Jerry. Now, this actually sounds like somebody who actually knows how forensic psychology works instead of pulling a diagnosis out of their glittery mystery bag ass. And after reviewing all of this and personally evaluating Tyrone, Dr. Proctor came in and he blew the entire insanity defense clean to hell. He testified that Tyrone exaggerated, misrepresented, or straight up lied about his mental condition in order to get moved into a preferred housing unit at the jail. Yes, baby, I said what? Now, not only are you a murderer and a sexual predator, but you over here running jailhouse scams trying to upgrade your living arrangements, baby, the mattress ain't gonna get no thicker. The food ain't gonna get no better. So Dr. Proctor even noted that Tyrone admitted that he intentionally cut his own wrist to make it look like he was suicidal because he wanted jail officials to transfer him out of the administrative segregation housing unit. I hate when people try to play the heck out of crazy. Don't piss me off. So in other words, like I said, this man is just manipulating the system. He knew exactly what behaviors would get attention, sympathy, or better accommodations, if you want to call it that. Then Dr. Proctor explained that before the murders, Tyrone did appear to show some depressive symptoms related to his back injury, I guess. But he made it crystal clear that these symptoms did not rise anywhere close to the level of severe mental disease or defect. Translation, sad and stressed is not the same thing as legally insane. That make it easy. Now, after Tyrone's arrest, jail psychological staff diagnosed him with adjustment disorder with depression. And that makes sense. You go from living out in the free world, they done put you in a cell with, it's nasty, it stinks, you ain't got no freedom, the food is trash, you can't get a good night of sleep because you're pretty much sleeping on a concrete slab. Who wouldn't be depressed? It just basically meant he was struggling emotionally in response to stress or a major life event. I mean, it's serious, but it's not the same as psychosis or being detached from reality. And they said they treated him with the lowest suggested therapeutic dose of a common antidepressant. Lowest. So he probably got like 1 milligram, maybe 5 max. There were no antipsychotics. There was no emergency psychiatric hospitalization. There was no severe schizophrenia treatment. There was none of that. And I ain't gonna hold you, baby. You put me in jail right now, I'm going to need something. I'm going to need something. So I mean, something. So basically, we finally got somebody on the stand who's not talking in riddles and inventing diagnoses or throwing out random hypotheticals. This man actually evaluated Tyrone. He reviewed the evidence. He connected the dots and he said what actually needed to be said. This man knew exactly what the fuck he was doing. And now, after all these shenanigans and foolery and these fake ass diagnoses and the rage conditions and the defense witnesses accidentally helping the prosecution every damn 5, they just handed this case over to the jury. They was just like, it's enough of this circus. It's time. And baby, when I tell you, them people was probably so over it, like so over it. So the jury, they basically went back there. They ordered lunch from Jimmy John's, and apparently it came freaky fast, just like them commercials promised. But they were only out for 90 minutes before they came back with a verdict. 90 minutes, an hour and a half. They went back there, they ordered their lunch, they ate their lunch. It was like, he guilty, yeah, we just want to sit here and decompress from that foolery that we just had to listen through. So when they came back, the jury found Tyrone Cade guilty on 2 counts of capital murder. And for real, there wasn't going to be no other verdict in this case he was going to get. I don't even know why he thought he was going to get something else. But like I said, got confessions, notes, recordings. I don't know what they wanted. I mean, and then they had to sit through a defense trial that basically amounts to, well, maybe his back hurt and his feelings got hurt too. I don't know. Had been convicted on 2 counts of capital murder. The trial moved into the penalty phase because now the jury had to decide whether this sorry-ass excuse for a human deserved the death penalty. And this is when the prosecution was just like, nah, let's remind everybody this ain't the first time he was terrorizing a woman. Because remember that 1999 sexual assault charge I mentioned earlier? Oh, baby, they went ahead and circled back on all of that. And the prosecution actually called the victim from that case Charity tries to testify. And honestly, I can't even imagine how hard it had to have been for her to sit in that courtroom and relive all of this, knowing that the same man who attacked her was sitting right there. So Chas gets up on the stand and she says she met Tyrone when she was 21 at a laundromat. She said they exchanged numbers and she invited him out for drinks with her and some of her coworkers after work because she had a job. And she said she wrote to the bar with one of her coworkers, but she only been there for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. He met her there. And whenever I was leaving, she asked Tyrone if he would drive her home. And let me tell y'all something. This poor baby had just got a new apartment and she said she was so proud of herself. So, she wanted to show it off. So she invited him upstairs. And she said, she said it started off, everything was cool. They were talking, they were just vibing or whatever. It was real cool. But then she said she was like, hey, I'm about to go. I'm about to say I'm staying the night at my friend's house, so she need to go pack a bag. And this sick bastard followed behind her. And she said she's getting all her stuff or whatever. She ain't thinking nothing of it. So she said she's walking towards the front door. She's about to leave. She said this man grabs her arm and refused to let go. Like, nigga, what the fuck? And then this nasty, predatory ass nigga told her he wanted her pussy, and that is a direct quote, and he threw her on the ground. She fought back, and this demon seed told her, quote, don't make me kill you like I did the last girl. Hold the fuck up. Because what do you mean like the last girl? See, that statement right there would have had me sitting straight up in court because that's not normal. Are there more? Did we miss something? Are there any unsolved murders out here? What do you mean the last one? And again, this is proving that this is a pattern. He did not just snap. This is somebody that's comfortable threatening women with death during sexual violence. So Chastity says she was so scared, but she's trying to survive by pretending just to cooperate. Just give him what he wants and maybe he'll let me live. So she says she leads him back to the bedroom, but this man would not let her go. And he was holding her by her wrist the entire time. Because like I said, this fucker has a control problem. She said he forced her to remove her clothing and then he vaginally raped her. And then after that, he forced her to perform oral sex on him. And I need people to understand how smart Chastity was in this moment because survival mode kicked in immediately. She was calculating every move, trying to figure out how the hell can she get out of here alive. And once she finally felt safe enough to escape, she wrapped herself up in a blanket because she was still naked when she ran to a neighbor's house where she waited for the police. And when they got there, this baby had injuries to her wrist, chin, hands, and her forehead. And of course, by the time they got her, this dusty ass nigga was gone in the wind. But how about this sick piece of rabbit vomit left a damn message on her answering machine apologizing for what he did? What the You raped this woman, threatened to kill her. You terrorize her in her own apartment, so she probably doesn't even feel safe in this brand new apartment that she just got. And then you leave her an apology on her answering machine like you forgot to return a casserole dish. The level of manipulation is crazy to me. But he was arrested, don't get excited, and convicted for the sexual assault and rape of Chastity Trice. But this is the part that got me, and I'm pissed. The man got sentenced to 3 years community supervision and 90 days in jail. And he was ordered to register as a sex offender and attend sex offender treatment programs. I don't think you can treat sexual offenders. Like, I don't think it's a treatment for it. I don't think it's a treatment for it. I ain't trying to be funny. The only treatment we need to be doing is castration at this point. Chemical castration. I don't know, something, but a program. That's the only program I think we need to be doing, because no. This is exactly what people get frustrated with the justice system, because this man had already shown society who he was years before Mischell and Desaree were murdered. He was violent. He was sexually aggressive. He was threatening. He was dangerous shit. But instead of truly removing this sick ass predator from society, they basically slapped him on the wrist and said, well, don't do that again. And then years later, two women ended up dead. And how about after this funky ass served his 90 days, he starts his required, quote, sex offender treatment program. And when I say this sorry ass turtle face asshole immediately starts showing exactly why her rehabilitation is never going to work, not just for him, but I don't think it works for anybody. Because I think it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. It has to be. Because the first thing that he did was not a sexual assault altogether. He refused to admit it was him. He said it was consensual, and it just got interrupted. He was like, I don't know, it was her husband or her boyfriend. Somebody interrupted it. No. And let's say he up here just lying with confidence. Like, this woman ran naked in a blanket to a neighbor's house with injuries all over her because y'all got interrupted. Be fucking for real. And then this manipulative ass tried to cry in the treatment group. Can you please spare everybody the community theater tears? Because nobody is fucking buying this shit. Then they said that he could completely skip the second treatment session because apparently, the accountability just probably was just too much for him. I'm just exhausted talking about this ass. Oh my God. So by the third session, the program director had just seen enough and just kicked his ass out of the program entirely. Now, thankfully, the court actually did something. I can't even say it's necessarily right, because I don't feel this is enough time. But he got booted from the treatment, and they revoked his community supervision and sentenced him to serve 3 years in prison. That's not enough time to me for a rape. Not enough time at all. I don't think you should get anything for less than 15 years for a rape. That should be on your first offense, no less than 15 years. And even in prison, this walking puss stain couldn't even behave. He got caught up with contraband. He's in altercation with other inmates because, apparently, like, people just keep fucking with me. It's not even me, it's them. But, okay, anyway, back to the capital murder trial. After that absolute dumpster fire of a defense case, the defense didn't even try and call any witnesses during the punishment phase, because that was probably the smartest thing they could have did. Because after them fake diagnoses with them, those so-called psychologists y'all probably found on the corner, y'all got the witnesses self-snitching, silence. That was probably just y'all best strategy at that point. Just shut up. Just shut up, because y'all did enough. And ultimately, Tyrone Cade was sentenced to death in the state of Texas. Praise it, you bless. Bless it. And currently, this sorry excuse for oxygen is still sitting on death row over at Pulaski State Prison, wasting taxpayers' good money until the state decides that it is time for that walking bag of pus to officially be up. And honestly, after all of this, y'all, I pray that Mischell and Desaree, after they suffered, I truly hope they are finally resting peacefully, because what happened to them was just so cruel and undeserved. A mama and her baby lost their lives because one violent, insecure, controlling predator could not handle rejection. And that is the real story here. That was a lot. That was a lot. And this is why we add Tyrone to list niggas that we can't fuck with. Yeah, now my Tyrone don't even sound that bad no more. He was a cheating piece of shit. But he wasn't that bad. Yeah. That's a whole story. He was a lying, gambling, cheating piece of shit, but he's better now. I still won't fuck with a man named Tyrone. No. He added Tyrone is certainly added to list. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and close this thing on out because, like I said, this case was heavy. But before we end this episode, I need y'all to let me know, did this week's song pass the vibe check? Like I said, this week's pick was Tank, Please Don't Go. And honestly, that toxic relationship energy, it was so sadly fitting. And definitely let me know what y'all thought about this case because, like I said, this one had me stressed, irritated, disgusted, and side-eyeing Tyrone and his whole goddamn family and them fake-ass psychologists and them goddamn defense attorneys. From Tyrone's jealous obsession to that absolute clown of a defense of the system, they just failed these women. And I'm so tired of the system failing women. I was watching The Worst Ex Ever. And what is that dude's name? Wade, whatever his one, the one that had he got the skull tatted on his face and he's sitting in death row in Florida. And his ex was saying how he kidnapped her and he raped her. And she went to the police. And mind you, this is a white woman. She ain't one of us. She is a white woman. She went to the police and she said, like, and I watched the interview that man did, and he was just like, I would never do anything like this. And the cop was like, well, I believe you, and let that man go. He never ran her DNA. He never did anything. Like, protect women. I don't understand why we can't even go and say, I was assaulted. That cop, because had he been that man, that Wade dude, had he been arrested for that, the two women that he killed, they may still be alive. And that lady said that she ended up going back and filing a report on him. All they did was suspend the cop for 3 weeks because he didn't run the DNA. Like, I don't understand this hatred towards women. Like, without us, y'all wouldn't be here. I'm just saying we are the givers of life. You would think that there would be a little bit more respect for women, but it's really sad. It's really sad. So anyway, like I said, I would love to hear y'all thoughts, your theories, your reactions, your opinions. So make sure y'all hit me up on social media, or, I'd love to read your comments about the case and how y'all felt about it. So let me know. And like I said, you can follow me on Melanin Mysteries for updates, lives, and events, whether it's over at the website or, like I said, I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. It's all Melanin Mysteries. You can also join the private discussion group, Love, Lies, and Alibis. For some reason, if you type in Melanin Mysteries, it'll come up. I have no idea why it's like that. And like I said, if you enjoyed this episode, I would just absolutely love it if you would subscribe, leave a review, and of course, share the podcast with your fellow true crime cousins, because word of mouth is the fastest way to help me grow. And as always, I want y'all to be safe, trust your instincts. Please stop ignoring the red flags with these men wrapped up in human skin. And I can't even say these men, I'm saying these women too, because these bitches is crazy too. And remember, hearts break, but alibis don't. And I will catch y'all in the next episode. Bye.